June 3rd, 2122. The crew of the commercial tug USCSS Nostromo are awoken from their hypersleep during their return trip from Thetis to Earth. But instead of finding themselves back in the Sol system, they were instead in the Zeta Reticuli system, on course to a distress signal emanating from a nearby planetoid classified only as LV-426. What occurred over the next 24 hours would result in the deaths of nearly every crew member of the Nostromo, as well as the intentional scuttling and destruction of the entire vessel and her towed ore and petroleum refinery. The United States cargo starship, or USCSS Nostromo, was built in 2101 on Earth and registered in the U.S. state of Panama. The vessel was a Juggernaut M-class faster-than-light commercial tug. Its construction was based upon a Lockmart or Lockheed Martin CM-88B Bison transport ship. In 2116, the vessel, under contract with the Weylund-Yutani Corporation, went through a massive refit. She was converted from a transport vessel into a commercial towing vessel. Her original Saturn J3000 sublight engines were replaced by two massive Rolls-Royce N66 Cyclone thrust tunnels, drastically changing the look of the vessel. The final price tag of the vessel and her towed refinery being around $46 million. The vessel now used to transport massive automated refineries from the inner core worlds in and around the Sol system to the outer rim of 20 Reticuli. The vessel was an impressive 1,095 feet or 335 meters in length, 705 feet or 215 meters at the beam, and had a 320 foot or 98 meter draft. It weighed in at a staggering 63,000 tons displacement. After a refit, the pair of thrust tunnels, the reactor core, and storage took up the majority of the vessel's space. Made in a 6-10-4 configuration, this left it with only 3 pressurized decks for the crew to live and work in. But this would hardly lead to a claustrophobic living environment. Seeing as the entire vessel was run by a crew of 7, and a majority of the trip the crew would be in hypersleep, a type of suspended animation in which aging is prevented by slowing the rate of cellular regrowth. While sublight propulsion was handled by the two Rolls-Royce N66 Cyclones, faster-than-light travel was facilitated by 4 Yutani T78 NLS star drive towers. These tachyon shunts were capable of speeds of around half a light year per sidereal day, or the time it took for the Earth to rotate in correlation to the background stars around it. But when hauling the large refineries it was often laden with, this speed would drop down to about 1/10 of a light year per day. Still impressive, but it would lengthen the trips back to Earth significantly. The Rolls-Royces were mass reaction engines. The mass used to fuel them was water, meaning a large bit of space on the ship were tanks full of mass water. The engines were each capable of generating 65,830 metric tons of thrust. Combined, it produced 131,660 kilonewtons of high impulse thrust at full power. The power plant on board was a Laratel WF-15 2.8 terawatt fusion reactor. The reactor utilizes deuterium-tritium as its reaction fuel, and contains it utilizing reaction lasers. It generates power by superheating liquid potassium and drawing power from the magnetic fields off of this. The liquid potassium is also used to cool off the reactor. In case of an emergency scuttling, the cooling system is closed off and separated from the core, causing it to melt down and explode. The communications and sensory suite on board was top of the line. On the bow of the Nostromo was a 10-meter long antenna for long-range interstellar communications, and a smaller 4-meter antenna for shorter-range UHF, VHF, and HF radio and video communications. There were several other sensors clustered around the bow, including a pair of 2-meter telescopes, these telescopes being capable of optical, spectrographic, and infrared detection and mapping. Also in the sensory suite was a gas chronograph for atmospheric analysis, an advanced centrometric navigational radar, and a regular landing radar. For in-atmosphere flight, there was a synthetic aperture ground mapping radar, and for long range, there was a mass counter for superlight or faster-than-light navigation. Most impressive on board would likely be the ship's central processor, an MUTHUR 6000 2.1 terabyte AI mainframe, or as the crew liked to call it, Mother. Mother monitored flight and acted as the autopilot. She also managed all the ship's autonomous systems during the crew's hypersleep. The system also had a 2-terabyte automatic backup system in case of failure, and even a third tier of automatic systems in case of further failure. Mother also acted as an advisory system for the ship's captain, and would modify and adjust directives to the crew from the company in mid-flight. Finally on board the ship was a pair of Lockheed Martin Star Cub shuttlecraft. These were named the Narcissus and the Salmacis. These small 48-ton shuttles were utilized to shuttle crew to and from locations, and in case of emergency, they could also act as lifeboats. Capable of interstellar travel, each shuttle could comfortably house up to 3 crew, and even had accommodations for hypersleep in case of abandoning ship in a remote region. At the time of the incident on the 3rd of June, though, only one of these vessels was operational. The reason being is still unknown. The USCSS Nostromo made dock in Thetis in April of 2121. Before beginning the lengthy process of refitting, refueling, taking on stores, and of course unloading 20 million tons of ore and petroleum for its automated refinery to refine on the return trip to the Sol system and Earth. 6 weeks later, once fully loaded, the Nostromo was connected to the Tesotech 2100B refinery. The massive automated refinery was built in 2115. Its dimensions were staggering. 6,322 feet, or 1,927 meters in length, 4,124 feet, or 1,257 meters at the beam, and 3,677 feet, or 1,121 meters from bottom to its highest point. It was capable of processing and transporting around 20 million tons of raw material entirely autonomously, with only occasional commands coming from Mother on the Nostromo. Nostromo departed Thetis with 7 crew and 1 ship's cat. The captain was 46-year-old Arthur Dallas. Dallas was a veteran captain, having served in the United America's Outer Rim Defense Fleet. But after losing a transport ship due to his negligence, he was dishonorably discharged with his flight status revoked. Only through years of civilian transport work was his flight status restored by the Weylund-Yutani Corporation and placed in command of Nostromo in 2120. His second in command was 38-year-old Gilbert Ward Thomas Kane, a med school dropout turned starship officer, serving on spacefaring vessels since 2112. The ship's warrant officer and third in command was 30-year-old Ellen Ripley. The third mate was a noted hard charger and well-versed in laws and regulations. She joined the Nostromo en route to Thetis. The navigation officer and pilot was 29-year-old Joan Lambert. The chief engineer was 42-year-old military veteran Dennis Parker, and his assistant engineer was 53-year-old Samuel Brett. A new science officer joined on Thetis just a few days before the return trip, known simply as Ash. Finally, the crew was accompanied by a ginger American short-haired cat, Jones, on board to handle any rodent issues as well as be a companion for the crew. On or around the 3rd of June 2122, Mother accelerated the Nostromo out of FDL flight and revived its crew from hypersleep. As they came to, the navigation officer, Lambert, calculated their position and determined they had only been out for 10 months and were only about halfway to Sol. It was determined that Mother was responding to what was believed to be a distress call originating from a nearby planetoid designated LV-426. ICC protocols required that the crew must investigate, assuming it's coming from an intelligent life form. Captain Dallas agreed, and Nostromo was detached from its refinery to land on the planetoid and investigate the source of the transmission. During the re-entry and landing upon the small rock of a planet, dirt kicked up by the ship's atmospheric impulse drives were sucked into the ship's intake manifold, causing electrical fires in several vital systems on the ship. The fire was quickly brought under control by crew and installed firefighting systems, but the damage was already done, estimates showing it would likely take around 24 hours. As the engineers set to work, an away team consisting of Dallas, Kane, and Lambert donned EVA suits and hiked the 2,000 meters across the desolate rock to the source of the signal. Upon arriving at the site, the three were surprised to find the crashed hull of a spacecraft, likely alien in origin. After ingressing into the hull, the crew discovered a long-deceased alien member of the crew, who apparently perished from something punching through its chest. Further investigation found the ship's cargo hold, heated and filled with hundreds, if not thousands, of what appeared to be eggs. Upon closer inspection, Executive Officer Kane discovered that the eggs were partially translucent and had living organisms inside. Shortly after this discovery, though, an egg opened. Out burst a creature that attacked Kane, melting through his helmet and attaching itself to his face. Dallas and Lambert were forced to drag the now unconscious Kane back to the ship, Once in the airlock, they requested access back to the ship, to which Ellen Ripley denied, citing ICC and company quarantine policies. There was some kind of alien organism attached to the executive officer's face. Surely it wasn't safe to bring aboard. Ripley ignored a direct order from Captain Dallas to open the airlock, but was ultimately superseded by the science officer, the man known only as Ash, who had only just joined the crew 2 days before leaving Thetis. With the crew back on board, Kane was brought to medbay and was carefully examined, discovering that the XO was alive and being kept alive by the strange alien parasite that refused to detach from his face. Efforts to cut the creature off of him revealed that the creature's body contained some form of molecular acid that melted entirely through 2 sets of deck plating, the determination being made to not attempt to remove it again. Shortly afterwards, though, the parasite apparently removed itself from Kane and then died, Kane coming around shortly afterwards. Once repairs were completed, the Nostromo took off from the surface to reconnect with the Refinery and get back on course for the Sol system. Once reattached, the crew settled down for one last meal before re-entering hypersleep for the long haul back to Earth to complete their mission. During this meal, though, Kane seemed to take ill rapidly, convulsing in pain before falling onto the table in front of the crew. To the horror of the rest of the crew, an alien creature burst from Kane's chest, killing him instantly. It then ran off before the shocked crew could do anything about it. Now, with the creature somewhere on the vessel, the crew set out with the difficult task of attempting to find it before they went into hypersleep, armed with cattle prods and a motion sensor developed by Ash. Unbeknownst to them, the creature was capable of growing surprisingly quickly. In searching for it, Assistant Engineer Samuel Brett was dragged off into the vents and presumed dead. Realizing the alien was utilizing the vents to navigate the ship, the idea was brought up to force the creature through the vents and into the airlock, where it could be vented into space. The crew rigged up a flamethrower, and Captain Dallas entered the vents to flush the creature towards the airlock, but was outmaneuvered by the creature and, like Brett, was presumably killed. Now with 3 crew members dead, the prospect of abandoning ship was brought up, but with only one functioning shuttle, that left room for only 3 crew. Ellen Ripley, now acting captain, consulted Mother to determine what to do, where it was revealed that the AI was following special orders from the Weylund-Yutani Corporation. Special Order 937. It read as, Priority 1, ensure return of organism for analysis. All other considerations secondary. Crew expendable. The corporation had sent them to LV-426 to bring this alien aboard. Shortly after this, Ripley was attacked by Science Officer Ash. The man was apparently a synthetic android planted on the ship by the company to ensure the capture of the alien specimen. After disabling Ash, Ripley, Parker, and Lambert decided to self-destruct the ship by overheating the ship's core and escaping on the ship's remaining Starcrub shuttlecraft. The crew split up, Lambert and Parker off to gather coolant and fuel for the shuttle, and Ripley to overload the reactor. The reactor would take 10 minutes to overload with a 5-minute grace period where it could be reversed. But whilst overloading the core, Lambert and Parker were ambushed and killed by the alien. Once Ripley discovered the dead crewmates, she attempted to stop the overload process, but was too late. Loading herself and the ship's cat onto the Narcissus, the ship's only functioning lifeboat, she took off mere moments before the ship's core detonated in an incredible supernova, destroying the ship and the refinery instantaneously. Ellen Ripley and Jonesy finally took a moment to breathe a sigh of relief, but it was cut all too short as Ripley realized that the creature had, through instinct or pure luck, stowed away aboard the shuttle as well, hiding in the ductwork. She quietly moved to the small craft's EVA suit locker, donning a suit as quickly and as quietly as she could. Upon doing so, she lured the creature out of the ductwork before strapping herself in and venting the alien out into space through the airlock. As it attempted to hide inside the engine cowling on the exterior of the ship, Ripley initiated the ship's engines, cooking the alien and sending it tumbling off into the dark black abyss of space. With one final log entry, Ellen Ripley and Jonesy the cat set in for a long hypersleep, their course set for the inner core worlds. The two would finally rest. After 24 hours of a nightmare, they were the only survivors of the USCSS Nostromo. April Fools. Thank you very much for tuning in to another April Fool's video. I can't believe it's been a year since my last one, of course, on the UNSC Pillar of Autumn. I hope you enjoyed. I know it's not my usual brand of video. Most people might see this out of the context of April Fools and wonder what the heck I'm doing, but Alien is another franchise other than Halo that I just absolutely love, and this video was super fun to research and to work on. I got so many cool books on the subject, and I got to rewatch my favorite movie, Alien, which it's just fantastic. The whole atmosphere of it, just the way it's so completely futuristic and yet still 1970s and 1980s, just awesome. That movie is an absolute masterpiece. Thank you so much for watching. At this point, I am so close to 100,000. I'm sure by the time I actually post this, I will be above 100,000, and that is fantastic. I'm looking forward to that play button. Oh, that's so cool. And I have all of you to thank for it. So definitely, I'd like to thank the patrons. All of you, of course, I want to thank all of you. I also want to thank the patrons because they're just that extra special little bit, giving me that little bit of extra support and all that, and it's fantastic, and I appreciate it. So thank you so much. Give the video a like if you liked it. Dislike it if you didn't like it. It doesn't matter. I can't see it anyways. Like, comment, subscribe, all that usual YouTuber bric-a-brac, and keep an eye out for new merch coming soon. Everything bought from the merch store goes directly to the channel artist, who did an awesome job drawing the Nostromo for the thumbnail. Oh my god, just when you get a chance, click off the video, look at that thumbnail. It's awesome. She did a great job. Enough of me gushing. Fair winds and following seas to you, shipmates.